Well, we're running out of winter, so we're running out of time. We've got to get a lot of things done, so we are here and there and everywhere this week. Well, today we're going to try to clear up some pasture, looking for the right weather conditions and the availability of all my children. But you can see behind me, we got a ton of deadfall and briars. We need to get rid of that stuff. So what we're trying to do here is establish a pasture, and we have a little issue with millions of little saplings. We also have a bunch of downed trees from the person who logged it before. So we want to burn those trees, but we got to be careful about fire spreading. So we're basically creating a fire zone here where we can burn it all. Then we can go in, we can burn the large trees so we don't have to worry about creating a forest fire. And then we can also run a brush hog through here and get rid of all these little saplings, because this fire isn't quite hot enough. There's not enough fuel to kill these little guys. It'll scorch the bottoms. It might kill some very young saplings, but it's not hot enough to kill the big stuff. So we're gonna have to come back through here with a brush hog. But basically, for safety, I've got kids stationed all around the fire, watching it. At this point, we've got a good, 10, 20 feet of fire break here, so very unlikely it's gonna jump. And then this afternoon, we have rains coming. So hopefully we'll get a lot burned before the rains come. So the way we burn this is I have a weed dragon, and I go around the perimeter and I rake leaves up to create a fire break, and then light that pile and let it burn to the interior. Then once that fire break is established along the outside, I go ahead and light the inside and let it burn back to the fire break. It keeps everything very slow. But these are pretty handy little tools. It's used all over the place.
So I wanted to give you guys some perspective here of the area we're burning and beyond, but what you're seeing in this clip here is actually the original area we put our goats into when we first moved out to this property. But as Sean was burning, I realized I was standing in kind of an interesting area. Let's walk over here and take a look. So I was standing on this path here watching Sean burn, and I realized this was the back fence line for the goat pen that he set up. Now, we'll flash here. If you remember, he was actually hand siding, and then he ran into an area that was covered up by vines and briars. So he thought he had a clear path, but then he hit this area where he wound up having a chainsaw for about 10, 20 minutes to clear it out. That is what he had to cut through right there. See if we can get back here. So you can see this area here. He had to cut through that, and that T-post became our corner post where the fence then ran up there. So it's always kind of interesting when you get things back into perspective. But yeah, this is the mess that those vines were hiding. I better get out of here before this fire catches up to me.
Well, the logging operations before we moved here left a tremendous amount of deadfall in the woods. And we've been burning piles every week, and it looks like we're not making any progress. We also have a big hunk of steel here that it's rebar, and we've got a scrap guy that's gonna come pick this up and give us some money for this. So anything we can do to clean this place up. So prior to coming here, we bought an extra length of bed for the lumber mill, so we could do logs. I think it takes me out to 23.5 feet, but anyway, we've been doing some 16 and 18 foot logs, and the extra bedroll's been really a blessing. And also just getting shorter logs down, I don't have to line them up on the center, I can drop them right to the mill. But this here is just over 20 feet. It's about 20 feet 3 inches long, so I think this is the longest log I've done on the mill. So this ought to be exciting.
So on days when it's not too rainy or muddy, we do continue slowly progressing on our building projects back here. This is the back side of the barn. I'm really kind of proud of the doors. We actually built two. It's a 12 by 12 foot space, so the doors are 12 foot high and each door is about 6 feet wide, so a little over 12 feet total. And we managed to get those all hung and attached. We found old sliding glass doors out there in that old barn and recycled those to be windows back here and let some light in. So one thing I'm pretty proud of is the north side of our barn. We finished up the 3 doors on this side for the most part. You can see here there is a solid door with a little pop door for the chickens. We've got a Dutch door for the goats, and you can see the house wrap is still on with just a split in it for them. We kept that up since the battens aren't on yet, and it helps keep the drafts down inside since the RV is still in there. We've got another Dutch door over here. We may do a little kind of flip-flopping of some doors later when we actually set the barn stalls up on the inside with their permanent setup, but for now this is working, and that door there is kind of our main entrance. It's like our back door as long as everything is blocked off with siding and the RV. So it's all temporary use, but I am very proud of these doors. I've never built doors like that before, and I think they worked out really nice. Hi, Goop. I am working on this third stall, but we got all this wood cut to size, planed, ready to mount, and it was just too wet to mount safely without risking it splitting. So it's sitting in here to dry for a little while, but we've got most of the rest of it done. I guess you could say 2 sides. And then I'm working through this side. I'm also working on my tack room. I'm pretty excited about this. This will be the biggest tack room I've ever had. Yet another recycled window. There will be shiplap siding on the inside. You can see the center panel there is missing. I gotta cut that one out. Kind of ran out, but I'll be shiplapping all the way around and then put a large in-swinging door so it doesn't interfere with the aisleway at all. So that is kind of next on my agenda. We're just sort of in a waiting game at this point. Now the cool thing about tulip wood, and tulip wood is what we've been using for most of our siding. So this tulip, also known as yellow poplar, dries extremely fast. We actually did some random samples the other day when we were cutting, and wood that was very freshly cut was around 23 to 28% moisture, and within about a week it dropped down to about 23%. Now the logs that have been stacked for a while were already dropping in the 18 to 23% moisture range, and this wood siding that we hung about a month ago has already shrunk down to between about 15 and 18%. So it dries very, very fast. And amazingly, we're getting minimal splitting. You know, we're learning as we go here, but very little splitting, and what is there will mostly be covered up later by the battens that we put up and the trim. You can see when we actually mounted these, we mounted them flush up against each other, but you can see that gapping that forms, and that's why we put the battens on to cover that up. But these boards shrink about 1/4 inch in each direction, so it provides quite a gap by the time it's done. The battens will seal it up a little bit and also make it look nicer.
It's a cold day, so we're out here trying to go through the barn, see if there's any salvageable wood in these stacks. We've gotten through a lot of this stuff here. This was piled all the way to the ceiling with barrels and junk, and we got all that off the top, got down to the bottom. These seem to be wall sections. I thought they were board stacks, but they're actually wall sections. It looks like they tore down a building and took each wall and laid it on top of each other. And obviously the rain got through, and it's a disastrous mass of rotten wood. So we're just trying to, piece by piece, get it out of here, get it away from the barn, so it's no longer a fire hazard. We do want to do some controlled burns this spring, so we want to make sure that everything around this barn is cleared so that we don't have an inferno. So we are doing piece by piece. Here we have an example of how people go to great lengths to compost, but if you leave something long enough, even stacks of lumber that might have varnish and paint and things like that, it eventually turns back to soil, given moisture and oxygen. So some of these boards have just literally turned right back to nature and turned into dirt. I got my own little compost pile right there in the middle of these stacks. There are boards there, but there was a leak in the ceiling, provided moisture, and it had oxygen, so it just decomposed back to earth. It's a slow process, but this front pile is really coming down, and I had to move all the windows over there. And I got Sean's help now, he's here. So I'm getting done a little quicker, but we can't go too fast because that fire gets too hot and there's some dry leaves on the ground. So we got a big fire break around the fire, and we're just trying to get through these rotten boards, and they are rotten all the way to the bottom. As I dig deeper down into these boards, I'm finding that this makeshift or nature's own compost pile is pretty deep. This goes way down. These were stacks of boards, and just a little moisture got in there, and it is, I don't think I'd use this on my garden, but it is rich black soil there. So that's what nature does. It returns everything back to dirt.
Well, the weather's going to be warmer and drier this week. The builders are coming back, and hopefully they'll make a lot of progress on the house. In the meantime, thanks for subscribing for those who did, and we love the comments. For those who haven't, join us on our journey. We'll see you next week.